Centrist fans. I wanted to just take a little time to do a video for you. I know I've been off the grid for a little while, but the last video that we did was for the question and answer debate and forums for the District 1 and District 2 candidates, and I want to thank everyone for participating and or watching. Many people have viewed it, and they've also talked about it and said that it was very informative, and I do appreciate all of the feedback tonight. And I want to thank the candidates themselves. I want to thank Mr. Crow, Mr. Tapley, Ms. Colvin, and Mr. Meacham for participating. They did a wonderful job. And they also have run great campaigns. All of them have done well, getting out into the public and talking to the people. So I want to make sure that they get the credit that they deserve for doing those things. Tonight, I'm going to try and cover, since this is Wednesday night, September the 28th, it would be 7 days or less before Election Day. Runoff elections are October the 4th, and you need to make sure that you come out and vote. I kind of previewed my predictions a little bit on the Iceberg Slim show. It's all good, but I figured I'd go ahead and do a more in-depth analysis of why I picked the people that I picked. And it's just because, again, I don't do endorsements. This is not an endorsement of any particular candidate. This is just based upon the numbers and based upon what people are saying in the community. This is how I see this particular situation going down. The last election, we did pretty good. We didn't really miss how the election would go. We underperformed on one or two situations, Mr. Brown and Mr. Funderburk, because they actually won it outright. But we did have them in either a runoff as being the leading candidates in the runoff. So congratulations to them. But we predicted who would be in the mayor's runoff, the District 1 runoff, and District 2 runoff. So far we're pretty good. And again, it is not that we are endorsing a particular candidate. It's just that we want to make sure that you see the reality of what the numbers say, and also how the communities are potentially looking at stuff. So let's start with District 2. I start with that one because, to be honest with you, it's anyone's game. I actually said on It's All Good, the Iceberg Slim show, that in reality, it is hard to really make a prediction on that one because, honestly, in the words of CNN, NBC, and Fox News, it would be too close to call. The biggest factors on that is going to be voter turnout, and based upon voter turnout, who is going to turn out? District 2 is 60% black and about 40% white. Might be a little off on the numbers, but for the most part, it's going to be an interesting mix to see who all comes out and who all was affected by those debates. And with Sherry not being in the race anymore, where those particular voters may gravitate to. So District 2, too close to call. I think that both candidates are strong, and you'll end up being successful with whoever ends up getting it. The Crow and Tapley situation is a little different. Crow was actually behind in votes to Mr. Tapley going into this, and because of the makeup of who Beverly White's supporters were, you would naturally think that they may gravitate to Tapley because of his closeness into the community. I'm going to go and lean more on my prediction with Tapley, but I do believe that Crow has an opportunity if he has gone out and actually gotten into the community and made connections with individuals in the community. If he's done that, made those connections and converted some people, it is possible he could turn it around. But knowing how people have talked in the community in District 1, he's going to be tough to beat. And that's just my opinion from what all I've seen of Tapley's interaction in that situation. So for District 1, I'm going to say that Tapley will probably have the edge. It'll be a close fight, but I don't think that it is not insurmountable for Tapley to overcome and get more votes than Crow in this situation. So again, that's going to depend mostly on turnout also. Traditionally, you can get a high turnout in the black community on the first initial vote, but it seems to greatly go down in the second one. That would not be positive for either Tapley and or Colvin in that situation. So again, it'll be a fight to the death in that situation, and we'll see how that goes. The next one is the race for Shaw in that situation and Neighbors. Not sure if Shaw has overcome some of the deficits that he has had in the first election. Shaw actually was behind greatly in every single district. Districts 1 and 2 kind of pulled him to the point where he was okay, but and was able to make the runoff. But I do not foresee Shaw being able to overcome the lead that Neighbors had. Now, while we're on that, I know most of you know about what was in the paper not too long ago about the situation as far as how much money both of them had raised. I know that Shaw only raised about $9,000. I think that was a loan plus $100 from one donor. At least that was what was reported. Neighbors, on the other hand, has raised over $30,000 for a mayoral race in Alexander City. Now, I don't know how that money itself had affected the reach for Shaw, but it had a significant effect as far as he used social media, he used the newspaper, he's used mailers. There was speculation that he's even had phone calls, but no one can prove that situation. And I'm not too sure that he would have himself done it, but maybe one of the people that he has used to actually do some of the running of the candidacy may have helped in that situation. But what has to be noticed is who has been giving him the money. For years I've gone to many meetings in the community, and the biggest thing that I hear is that Russell was not fair to Alexander City, and Russell was running Alexander City, and the lake doesn't really care about what happens in Alexander City. Well, people, from now on you can never use that argument again, because the lake and Russell donated heavily to Mr. Neighbors, and they're his candidate. And so if he wins, the lake, Russell, and the individuals that voted for him have an immediate stake in what's going on in City Hall. So that's that. Now, does that mean that he will be bought and paid for or anything of that nature? No, it just means that those individuals that donated have a vested stake in how he governs in that situation. I am a firm believer that if you give somebody some money, you're going to want access in that situation. So we shall see how that situation turns out. As far as my prediction, again, Shaw was behind in every district, heavily behind. In fact, ran last in the majority of the districts other than districts 1 and 2. So I find it hard to believe that he'll be able to overcome that much of a lead going into the final bit. So my prediction is Neighbors, probably by a pretty good bit is what I'm thinking. But it just depends on turnout. Now, that's the local elections. We haven't really talked much about the district attorneys. One of the things that I've gotten both of them to agree to, actually, is to do interviews. So we're scheduling interviews after the election, going into November, into the end of October, to do interviews with the district attorneys. Mr. Dwyer, I can't remember, I apologize. And then also Mr. Harris. Both of them I've met. Both of them are good men. And both of them would serve well as a district attorney. We're coming up with questions right now. So if you'd like, email me your questions and let's sit down and talk. I'll sit down and vet them, and they may find their way into the interviews that we'll be posting online. Many of you have asked about the Clinton and the Trump debate. Well, I'll just put it this way. As I said on the Iceberg Slim show tonight, Clinton and Trump did nothing more in a debate that'll help them or hurt them than what they had going into it. I don't think many people changed their minds because of the debate. I think Mr. Trump came out strong in the first 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And I believe that when it turned into a personal situation, Mr. Trump lost that vitality and ended up getting pretty much handed to him towards the end. I think Clinton actually delivered a few body blows in her closing that landed and hurt him pretty good. And he didn't really seem like he had an answer for it. So overall, Clinton may have had an edge on the actual debate itself, but as far as it helping or hurting anyone, if you're a Clinton person by now, you're going to stay a Clinton person by now. If you're a Trump person, you're going to probably live and die Trump until the end of the election. The people in the middle, though, I think are just as confused as they were. Some facts that they brought out was that Clinton was interrupted 26 times, I believe. Trump was interrupted about 9. There were about 10 questions that were not answered per se by Trump, and about 5 that were not answered by Clinton. I watched it. I started tuning out mentally about halfway, so it just wasn't a deep policy discussion like I thought it would be. I do have to say that I did think that both Clinton and Trump sidestepped a lot of questions when it came to their own inadequacies. People that know me know that I'm not a Trump or a Clinton fan, but at the same time, it's what we have right now. Out of a country with billions of people, I can't imagine why we ended up with these two as our main candidates, but it is what it is. We'll talk a little bit more about the analysis for Clinton and Trump because we only have a little over 40 days, 60 days, so we're getting close. So we'll be able to talk a little bit more about that as we get closer. Continue to like, continue to share, and until the next time, be centrist. We appreciate you, and I will come up with more information. Like I said, the interviews are coming up, and as always, I appreciate you listening and watching. Have a wonderful day.